Hey everybody, so half of this video is gonna be basically, you're gonna see me, the life of Tyra, aka Tyra. The other part is gonna be like a little like voiceover slash podcast type of thing. So yeah. So the next era slash album slash mixtape slash project that we're on is, if you're reading this, it's too late. If you're reading this, it's too late is Drake's fourth album slash mixtape. It was released on February 13, 2015, coincidentally on the 6th-year anniversary of the Sorpa Gun mixtape. If you guys didn't know, as earlier mentioned, the Sorpa Gun mixtape was released on February 13th, 2009. So 6 years later, Drake releases If You're Reading This, Is Too Late. It was a surprise release. If You're Reading This is a mixtape, but contractually it counts as Drake's fourth album because around that time, Drake was trying to renegotiate his contract with Cash Money Records. By the way, all like the sources and all like the research I've done for the video, like my sources will be linked down below in the description box as a little Google document. So If You're Reading This has features from Lil Wayne, Travis Scott, and Party Next Door. I listened to this album in full for the first time back in June, and honestly, I rank it in my top 5 of Drake albums because I like how parts of the album and like the subject matter are like just Drake wanting more for himself, wanting to elevate, wanting to improve, but also at the same time basically saying like, I'm him. So some standout tracks, I want to talk about like Legend and Energy. So I kind of combined these two only because like I remember like I was in the 8th grade when If You're Reading This came out, and I vividly remember in gym class being with my classmates and we were listening to Legend, Energy, and then as well as Know Yourself. We were listening to those songs like the first time. This is like, again, February 2015. We were like 13, 14 years old talking about some, oh my god, if I die, I'm a legend. What got me when I was thinking about this was like when we were listening to Energy and we were talking about some, I got enemies, got a lot of enemies, got a lot of people trying to drain me of my energy. I take away from a nigga, fucking with the kid and pray for your nigga. And whole time, the enemies in question were just our teachers assigning us homework. Like literally, like what? Like we were all acting like as if we had ops, so we knew what Drake was talking about. So now the next track that I want to talk about, the standout track, which of course like I like this track, but this track has like a loaded type of history, is Know Yourself. So Know Yourself is famously known as when Drake said the famous lyric, running through the 6 of my woes. People are just like, okay, what's the 6? So the 6 that Drake is referring to is Toronto. So the 6 is Toronto, where Drake was born. Toronto is broken up into 6 districts. However, there is speculation, and this is like rumored and alleged, that the 6 is in reference into East Atlanta's Zone 6. The reason why I say this was speculated or alleged is it's not the fact that like the 6 is in East Atlanta's Zone 6, that is factual. Atlanta-based rapper slash songwriter Quentin Miller, he co-wrote a majority of the tracks on If You're Reading This. He plays a part in the Drake versus Meek Mill beef of 2015. One of like the major allegations in that beef was that Meek Mill said that Drake doesn't write his raps. When like Drake mentions the 6, it's actually Quentin Miller who wrote that lyric, running through the 6 of my woes, and he's talking about East Atlanta's Zone 6. However, again, that's alleged. And then other tracks that I liked on If You're Reading This is Now and Forever and You and the 6. I really like those 2 tracks as well. Overall, I wasn't really active in this era, but also at the same time like a little bit, because like I said earlier with my story of how me and my classmates in middle school were listening to those 3 tracks, Energy, Know Yourself, and Legend. So in that sense, I was kind of like there, but not really. Now the next album slash era in Drake's discography is What a Time to Be Alive. So What a Time to Be Alive is a collaborative mixtape by Drake and Future, released on September 20th, 2015. This project was made in 6 days. According to a Drake interview with Zane Lowe, Drake said, I went to Atlanta and spent 6 days with Future. He's a machine. I've never seen anybody with that much of a catalog. Jumpman was one of the last tracks. A Digital Dash, he had just bodied it so much. It was presented to me as a finished piece. I gotta do it justice. Dinner, Immediate Group, it's a kind of birth of should this be the whole thing. That was the realization of we're gonna do this whole project together. A creator that I follow on social media, I forgot their name, but I know they said that they listened to What a Time to Be Alive when they're working out or at the gym. And when I first listened to this project in full, I was on my morning walk, and I understand why. This might be my favorite and dare say Drake's best collaborative mixtape in his discography. This album was co-produced by Metro Boomin himself, and he also served as a co-executive producer of this mixtape. And you can definitely tell that this is very like Metro Boomin produced coded. okay, that was a lot, but basically you could tell that this was like something that Metro had his hands all over, which is obviously not a bad thing. Metro Boomin is a really goated and talented producer, of course. Some standout tracks I want to mention in What a Time to Be Alive. I like Big Ring, Diamonds Dancing. I really like Diamonds Dancing. I think when I used to be active on Tumblr, when like this like mixtape first came out, so 2015, I'm pretty sure I had this song like playing on my blog, like when you go on my Tumblr blog, and like immediately like I'll have like a little playlist, and like this was one of the songs that played when you go on my blog. I also like Plastic Bag, and then of course Jumpman, literally one of the most popular tracks off this mixtape. Like I literally remember, especially like when I was starting to become like an NBA fan, like late 2015, early 2016, like you could not escape an NBA commercial that didn't have Jumpman in it. So like this was a really good song, and also like it made sense for the NBA to obviously like, you know, use that song to the death. Other checks that I like, Jersey and 30 for 30 Freestyle. I feel like there's another one that I did not mention. Hold on, I'm actually literally going through like my Spotify playlist right now. Oh, Scholarships. Okay, I think Scholarships and Diamonds Dancing personally as like 1 and 2 like, you know, favorite tracks off of this mixtape.
So hey everybody, hi y'all. So a little bit of an outfit change, and also today's a different day. Today's July 31st, 2026. So it's the last day of July. Tomorrow's about to be August. Again, I don't know when this video is gonna come out. It is a long video. It is a deep dive after all. But anyways, this is like the semi fit. Can you guess like what Drake era am I? Huh? If you guess Hotline Bling off of Views, then yeah, you're right. A Hotline Bling inspired like sweater, I guess. I just randomly found this in my closet, but it is very fitting for the next album that we're gonna talk about. So the next Drake album that we're gonna talk about is Views. So Views is Drake's 4th album. I know I was talking about how if you're reading this, it was supposed to be a mixtape, but technically that's Drake's quote-unquote 4th album for like contractual reasons between Drake and Cash Money Records. Views is Drake's 4th studio album that came out on April 29, 2016. The album was originally titled Views from the 6th, but it ended up being shortened to Views. If you guys know, Views is the album cover in which Drake is seen to be quote-unquote sitting at the CN Tower in Canada. Keep that in mind, the CN Tower, because it's going to get brought up again later when the album cover was like announced per se. A lot of people were shocked that Drake actually sat at the top of the CN Tower. I thought the album cover was pretty cool personally, because it does goes with the title of Views. Whether it will be Views or the original title, Views from the 6th, either or, like the album cover definitely matched with like the album title. A lot of people thought that Drake actually sat at the top of the CN Tower, but come to find out it was actually Photoshop. I personally figured that it was Photoshop anyway. Official like CN like Twitter account, or like more specifically like the CN Tower's like Twitter account for like scheduling tours and visits and stuff like that, they like jokingly tweeted and was like, no, this is actually Photoshop, this is not like a real photo, it's Photoshop. Views was literally one of the defining albums of 2016. I know you guys are tired of hearing like, you know, 2016 was the best year, 2016 was this, 2016 was so goated, da da da. Literally Views, like that whole album, not only the whole album but the whole era in itself, it was really those like defining moments of 2016. Like when you think of the music in 2016, you can't leave out Views by Drake. And personally, like I knew that like the Views era was gonna be so huge when Hotline Bling came out back in July of 2015. Like literally when Hotline Bling came out and became the smash hit, the memes from the music video, Drake doing this, that whole little emote, like I already knew like, oh yeah, like this next era, like Drake is gonna do his big one. Like if people are acting like this towards Hotline Bling, like how are people gonna react when Views came out? Well, this is how people reacted when Views came out. Like when Views came out, I do remember how a lot of people were in debates of whether or not Take Care or Views was Drake's best album, like his #1 best album in his discography. There were heavy debates. Like even I participated in it. This is from a TikTok that I made back in 2021. So like with Views, like the sound dives into like Afro beats and dance hall. Of course there's like elements of pop, R&B and rap, but really it's more like dance hall and Afro beats like focus, you know. Despite, as I said earlier, like how, you know, big like the Views era was and commercial success of like, you know, singles such as One Dance, that was a really big one. Of course a really good song as well. Too Good featuring Rihanna, Trolla, etc. The album was actually met with lukewarm reviews. Most of the issues were stemming from topics of the album, like, you know, Drake's usual like shtick, loyalty issues amongst friends and relationships, fame and success. Also, a lot of people are debating on also like having an issue with that the album itself was like pretty long. Like a lot of people thought that the track list was way too long. Like, one of the biggest critics of the Views album was none other than Joe Budden. So like the Views era was literally where like the beef between Drake and like Joe Budden began. Like it really started in 2016 when Views came out. In an episode of Joe Budden's podcast, I'll name his podcast later, Joe Budden heavily criticized Views by saying that like Drake sounded uninspired in this project. He like praised Drake's longtime producer Noah 40 Shabib, basically saying 40 you sound amazing, 40 continues to progress, Drake you do not. Due to Joe's views on Views, y'all, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to use that line. I couldn't wait. I'm sorry, not sorry. So due to Joe's views on Views, that caused Drake to drop his diss track 4 p.m. in Calabasas in June 2016, which was not only about Joe, allegedly. Drake doesn't directly name him in this diss track, but Drake also dissed P. Diddy and Meek Mill. I listened to 4 p.m. in Calabasas, and I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one of my favorite like Drake diss tracks. Drake and Joe Budden beef, it continues past Views, and it goes into like another Drake era, another like prominent Drake era, which I will get into later. Anyways, here are my standout tracks for Views. Well, starting off is Keep the Family Close. I like the track's haunting like production. It's like the haunting, eerie production. I really like that part of the song. Next one, You With Me. This was a song that I sent to Jacob, and he wanted to know why I thought that You With Me reminded me of him. The next one, Redemption. This is my favorite song from Views. And then Drake says, since Take Care, I've been caretaken. Oh my god, 2020, 2021 me literally thought that that was like the greatest thing ever at the time. Like, oh my god, like he talked about take care. Anyways, the next track, Summer's Over interlude featuring Magic Jordan. This is another one of my favorite tracks off of Views. Anytime Magic Jordan is featured on like a Drake project, like they always do their big one. They always show up and show out. I got into Magic Jordan back in high school in 2017. It was because like somebody from like Tumblr, like an old mutual of mine, used to be obsessed with them, and I got into their stuff because like this person will always post some of all their music and stuff like that. So I got into them from there. I'm pretty sure that Magic Jordan is still signed under Drake's OVO like record label. And as I kind of touched on in this video at some point, if I haven't, there's some like little dodgy allegations and dodgy things going on at OVO Sound, especially when it comes to like people wanting to like release music. That's like pretty much it in a sense about Views. Alright, so the next era that we're gonna get into is More Life. More Life is Drake's 5th mixtape that came out on March 18, 2017. This quote-unquote mixtape is actually a playlist. It had a low-key stacked like featured list. It had Kanye West, he also has a producer credit, Young Thug, Giggs, Skepta, Quavo, Travis Scott, 2 Chainz, Georgia Smith, Sampha, and Party Next Door. So this mixtape, it blends pop, dancehall, rap, R&B, and some UK drill rap. In general, I like this playlist. It's perfect for the summer. So some standout tracks from More Life. I like No Long Talk featuring Giggs. By the way, Giggs and both of his features, I really liked his like verses and like the parts that he played in the song. So he did really good. I like No Long Talk, and then KMT, Georgia Interlude featuring Black Coffee and Georgia Smith, Get It Together, Galchester, Skepta Interlude. Oh my god, that's like probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite song off of More Life. Skepta Interlude, like even though it's just an interlude, like Skepta, he really like brought it out. Like I'm pretty sure this is on my gym playlist, my workout playlist. Fake Love, I remember listening to Fake Love a lot anyway when it first came out. I like Ice Melts featuring Young Thug, and then Do Not Disturb. That's pretty much it with like More Life. I feel like that era wasn't really too crazy, you know, because you know Drake likes to do a thing where like in between his studio albums he'll release like a cool little mixtape, a quick little 1-2 or whatever. You know, he does that with Scary Hours and stuff like that. So More Life is like one of those things where like it's just something like in the meantime type of thing. It's like a in the meantime type of project while it goes broke on the real deal, you know what I mean? So yeah. Alright everybody, new outfit change because this is gonna go into like the next era. And the next era that we're gonna be talking about is Scorpion. Clearly like this is like my little Scorpion cosplay fit, aka like the album cover. So Scorpion is studio album number 5 by Drizzy Drake himself. It was released on June 29th, 2018. It is a double album with 25 tracks. Disc 1 has 12 tracks. That one's mainly like hip hop and rap heavy. And then disc 2 has 13 songs, and that one's kind of like more like pop R&B influenced. This album slash era in general, it was really insane, like for a lot of reasons. Obviously we know the biggest one was the fact that, like, you know, Drake got into his beef with Pusha T before the album came out. Pusha T, he infamously dropped the biggest bomb, one of the biggest bombs around that time, and his story of Added On This, where he drops a bomb that Drake has a son that he's been hiding, the son name being Adonis. So then there was that, and then also another big thing that really was pretty controversial at the time was when Drake had 2 posthumous features on his album, one being the late legendary Michael Jackson on the track Don't Matter to Me, and then he also has Static Major on another track called After Dark. This one also has like Ty Dolla $ign in it as well. So that was controversial. It was mainly like the Michael Jackson posthumous feature that was like insane and like pretty crazy. So I remember like around like the Scorpion era, oh my god, this was so crazy. So like around the Scorpion era, it was 2018. That same year, I went to the Governor's Ball Music Festival. It was on like a Saturday, and it was Travis Scott's day. He was a headlining act for that weekend on Saturday. And I remember when me and my 2 homegirls, Liz and Megan, if y'all watching this, shout out to y'all. I remember we all, like all 3 of us went to like Pusha T set because we just wanted to see how like everybody was gonna act with the whole Drake thing. Cause I definitely knew for sure, like I knew, but like we all knew that like everybody was gonna like be like fuck Drake, all that stuff. And like clearly like the audience was like that. Like literally like even before Pusha T came out for his set, like they were playing music beforehand, but it was not only Pusha T's music, but like Kanye's like good music record label at the time. So they were playing good music like artists like Kanye, Big Sean, etc. So they were playing like their music from that record label. And then that's when like, you know, Pusha T came out and performed his stuff. And literally like, you know, everybody in the whole crowd was like, fuck Drake, fuck Drake.
Fuck Drake, fuck Drake, fuck Drake, fuck Drake. Check it out. Fuck Drake, fuck Drake, fuck Drake, fuck Drake. When I say good, y'all say music good. Music, good. Music. When I say good, y'all say music good. Music, good. Music. When I say good, y'all say music good. Music, good. When I say good, y'all say music good. Music, good. Music.
So, Scorpion, I like have a mixed feelings about this album. Like, I'm gonna say like I was very intrigued by this project. Like listening to this project in full, like as an adult, because at the time, of course, I didn't really listen to it in full. Besides like the singles, like Nice for What, Ratchet Happy Birthday, and My Feelings, etc. God's Plan, of course, which I'm gonna get into like in a few seconds. But yeah, so Scorpion, it was a really interesting album in a sense because like I don't know, maybe because it was like the whole 2 disc of it all. I kind of wanted to rank it a little higher and like my, you know, my favorite like Drake's album slash mixtapes of all time type of thingy or whatever. But yeah, it was really interesting. So I'm just gonna get into the standout tracks. So standout tracks from disc 1. I liked Nonstop, Elevate, God's Plan. God's Plan had a very touching music video as Drake was seen donating money, giving money out to different people from various communities. She said, do you love me? I tell her only partly. I only love my bed and my mama. Sorry for the gun and I'm not God's Plan. I really liked that song when it first came out. I really liked the memes and the skits that came out God's Plan, like stemming off from God's Plan. Like I vividly remember like this one, like somebody will be like, oh, how I felt when the cashier told me my total was $19.99 and I gave him the $20 bill, tell them to keep the change, and I walk away. And then like it would be like that, and then someone would be like, this is how I felt, and then like it was just like Drake and the God's Plan music video. Also liked 8 out of 10. Like the production of 8 out of 10 gives like So Far Gone and Thank Me Later vibes. I also like Sandra's Rose. That's pretty much it for like disc number 1. Standout tracks for disc 2 on Scorpion. Summer Games. Y'all, this is definitely like my #1 favorite track on Scorpion. Anytime I will go back to listen to Scorpion, which is like, you know, every now and again, you know, sometimes I always go to Summer Games. Summer Games is literally like my favorite song off of Scorpion. As somebody who got broken up with earlier this year, like I guess this song kind of like hits like a little different for me in a sense. It's like the production that gets me on this song. Summer Games, like the production on that, I really like it. It gives like indie vibes. Let's Call It Off on So Far Gone. Like that's what the vibes that it gives me like from Summer Games. And like if I didn't say it before, I'm gonna say it again in this video. Like I really like when Drake goes into that indie type of vibe. So I really like that type of production that he goes for. Another standout track I did like Finesse. That was pretty valid, pretty decent. I also like That's How You Feel. I like how Drake included a little like sample of Boss Ass Bitch by Nicki Minaj. Don't Matter to Me featuring Michael Jackson. It's not a standout track because I like it, because I don't like it. When I was listening to this, I kind of felt like unsettled and like icky. Kind of felt the same way a little bit with After Dark with Static Major. It just felt kind of icky, and I think I felt kind of icky when I listened to Don't Matter to Me, because like I like a couple of months prior to like, you know, me doing this video, or like me like, you know, doing the research for this video, I literally had seen like the Michael movie with my mom and my grandma. Just hearing that song, hearing like, you could tell, and like you could really tell that that song was unfinished. The original version of the song was Michael's, of course, and like, you know, Michael not being able to like finish that track, it just felt really weird. Like, ew, it felt like icky-ish to me, kind of like with like Pop Smoke. And when he passed, like, don't get me wrong, like his first posthumous album from 2020, that was a really good album. That was a really solid project. But the sophomore posthumous album, I didn't really like that one at all. You could tell that it was very like cash grabby. And also like allegedly Pop Smoke's like estate, they like ran out of all his songs. Like all the songs that like that came out like posthumously, like that's all they got. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to touch on with Scorpion. The next album slash era that I'm gonna get into by Drake. This one, you know, it kicked off the 2020s into now. Dark Lane demo tapes. So Dark Lane demo tapes is Drake's 6th mixtape that came out May 1st, 2020. We're all in lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown slash pandemic. With Dark Lane demo tapes, I like that album cover. However, I do understand why like many Drake fans, they don't rank this mixtape as high. I remember like the Dark Lane demo tapes era because of Tootsie Slide, and then the fact that like Drake like collabed with Chris Brown, and like mind you, like they both had dated Rihanna at one point, and it kind of just really goes to show like how like Drake feels towards Rihanna in a sense. And then also like not only, it wasn't even the first time that they both collabed in a sense. They already had collabed before on No Guidance back in 2019. That was like a really big song as well. But yeah, so those were like the biggest parts of like that era, that mixtape that I remember. Obviously I remember COVID-19 and the lockdown, the pandemic, of course, not dismissing that by any means. Some of the standout tracks that I liked in Dark Lane demo tapes, I like When to Say When, Chicago Freestyle, that one has Giveon in it. I like Tootsie Slide, the song, like it's not that bad. And then lastly, I like Demons featuring Fabio Foreign and Sosugi. That one is also in my workout playlist. I had already liked that song anyway around the time Dark Lane demo tapes first came out. Alright y'all, so we are finally at the critical point of this video, and we're also at like the next era of Drake, or Drake's next album. This next one is album number 6, Certified Lover Boy, and honestly, I'm gonna go right off the bat here. I feel like this is where we see the shift and change in Drake in terms of how he slowly has become, or his like incel slash manosphere type, you know, the energy of it all, his viewpoints and stuff like that and things of that nature. This is when it truly starts to seep in, and this is when you start to see Drake's fan base slowly like becoming that incel manosphere red pill loving like fan base in that sense, or they have like that type of mentality within them. Without further ado, let's get into Certified Lover Boy. You already know what this is. I'm looking down because I got my outline because it has a lot of my notes. So Certified Lover Boy is Drake's 6th studio album. It came out September 3rd, 2021. Certified Lover Boy was like the first Drake era that I was actually like physically like present for. Not physically present like as if I was like in the studio with Drake. No, I mean like it was like the first era that I was actually like, you know, paying attention. Like I was essentially there from like the very beginning of like the Certified Lover Boy era. All of other Drake's eras, especially like when he first came out, majority of them happened when I was like a kid, so like I really wasn't like in tune with like, you know, what was going on. As I gotten older, like was I in tune? Yes and no per se. Like only for like, you know, the major singles, like the major like popular tracks that got like radio play and stuff like that. yeah. But Certified Lover Boy was when I really was like paying attention to Drake. That's when like I actually became like an actual fan of Drake in a sense. Like in the past I was a casual fan, but like around 2019, 2020, during quarantine, COVID-19 lockdown, that's when I really became a Drake fan, when I was listening to his music and a lot of other people's music as well. Like I stated earlier, quarantine lockdown, like one of the biggest things I've done was like listening to like music, whether it be like, you know, new musicians or like musicians that I already have liked anyway, and like I just go back to their older works. Like that's how, for example, I got into Kehlani during quarantine. I got into Victoria Monet during quarantine, even though I already knew her because she had wrote for a lot of Ariana Grande's biggest hits. But I was able to dive deep in their discography, so, and that's how I became a fan of their works, and then the list goes so on and so forth. Alright, so like I was 19 when Drake first announced back in May of 2020, literally hours before Dark Lane demo tapes came out. Like literally like before that mixtape came out, Drake announced in May 2020 that Certified Lover Boy will come out later that same year, right? Fast forward to October 2020, Drake then announced that Certified Lover Boy will come out January 2021 via an album promo trailer on YouTube. But like I remember being so hyped when I seen this like trailer. Like the trailer referenced So Far Gone, it referenced Take Care. Drake now at the time of that trailer dressing up as like, you know, the Take Care era. And like around this time, this is when Drake had etched onto his hairline the little heart. So that's what, like, you know, really was solidifying, like, yeah, this is the Certified Lover Boy era. It also referenced Nothing Was the Same, and then it also referenced Dark Lane demo tapes as well. Literally, I was so hyped, everybody was so hyped, it was crazy, right? Based off of that album promo trailer for Certified Lover Boy, it definitely gave, like, winter vibes. Like, Certified Lover Boy, like, to me at that time, it felt like it was a winter album, and it made sense for the album to come out in January 2021. However, Drake once again pushed back the release date for Certified Lover Boy. By the time January 2021 rolls around, Drake had pushed back the Certified Lover Boy album because he tore his ACL and he had to get surgery. I'm pretty sure he tore it when he was playing basketball. And then that's when we got like Scary Hours 2, the EP, in March 2021. You could tell that was like a little like, you know, in the meantime type of project. Again, Drake does that a lot in between his studio albums. He'll release a major studio album and then like a year or like a few months later, he'll release like a mixtape or an EP of sorts, just to like, you know, give fans something while he works on studio albums. So yeah, so we end up getting like Scary Hours 2, the EP, March 2021. Since March 2021, Drake has kept like delaying the release of Certified Lover Boy. And like eventually he said that Certified Lover Boy will come out before the end of summer 2021. And everyone, myself included, was getting low-key fed up with the delays. It was announced on August 27th, 2021, finally, via SportsCenter, that Certified Lover Boy will come out on September 3rd, 2021. Don't get me wrong, I was excited, like, okay, finally, we got a date for this album, an exact date, not just some, like, a month and a year. We got a specific date, September 3rd, 2021. I'm like, okay, cool, right? Like, Drake, he technically wasn't wrong when he said that Certified Lover Boy will come out before the end of the summer that year, because, like, summer doesn't end until, like, September 21st, 22nd, because, you know, the fall equinox. So, technically, he wasn't wrong. However, it would have been better if Certified Lover Boy was released, like, during the winter. I feel like, again, Certified Lover Boy felt more so like a winter album than a summer album, right? And again, like I said earlier, the album promo trailer from October 2020, it gave winter vibes. It literally did. Like, if anything, like, I would have minded if, like, Certified Lover Boy came out, like, after September 3rd, it came out on Drake's birth month. Because Drake was born in October 24th. So, boom, on September 1st, 2021, billboards started popping up revealing the musicians who will be featured on Certified Lover Boy. These billboards were located in, like, the featured artists' hometowns. I really like this form of the album promo. And like I thought that it was really cool. One billboard, oh my god, it was like my favorite one, and like I posted this on my IG story when I seen it, and like oh my god, it was like my favorite billboard out of all the billboards that was there for like the Certified Lover Boy promo, where it was one that said, "I don't miss, let alone miss you." I was obsessed with that phrase. Finally, on September 3rd, 2021, Certified Lover Boy released. So Certified Lover Boy is actually the first album in like a trilogy series for Drake. So Certified Lover Boy is like the first album in the trilogy, And then the second and third albums are Honestly Nevermind, which we'll of course get into later, and then Her Loss, we'll also get into later, respectively. So the trilogy is Certified Lover Boy, Honestly Nevermind, and then Her Loss. That's the trilogy. So for starters, I do not like the Certified Lover Boy album cover. It was very lazy, very tacky. I felt like it was bare minimum. Again, I know like some people probably had that same thought when Drake had the Dark Lane Double Tapes album cover, but again, like I said, I like that cover because it makes sense for the album cover. So like that makes sense, so I'm not gonna like fault Drake too hard on that one. But for the Certified Lover Boy album cover, that was trash. That was a terrible cover. Like, mind you, again, this album was highly anticipated. Like, everybody was like, you know, scrambling to like, you know, like, oh my god, how is it gonna sound? Oh, since da-da-da-da is on this album, how you think they're gonna sound with Drake? Like this, that, and the third. Literally, if anything, he could have had done like this picture, which I'm gonna put on like on the screen. I like went back on Drake's Instagram page just to see like what he was like kind of posting around like the Certified Lover Boy era. Probably a lot of the stuff from that time period was like archived now. But like for example, like this picture would have done it, or anything where like it showed Drake with like the heart etched on his hairline. But like it was like that, like it would have been better. As much as I was excited about Certified Lover Boy and the fact that, you know, the album's finally here, you know, again, this is like my first Drake era where I actually was paying attention. I was like active in terms of like, you know, listening to his music, like checking in on like updates on like Certified Lover Boy, or seeing like what was up. Like if Drake posted anything on like Instagram or like Twitter, I was like, oh my god, is it about Certified Lover Boy? Like I was really like locked in on the Certified Lover Boy era. Like I was excited for this album, you know what I mean? So even though I was really excited for this album to come out, again, like I said in the beginning of this part of the video, this album and era is really when like the incel Vanisphere vibes from Drake and his fan base started to seep through. The track TSU, Drake sampled R. Kelly, yeah, that R. Kelly. He sampled the R. Kelly song Half on the Baby. And then lastly, the track Way Too Sexy, which I'm gonna get into more detail later. Young Thug's verse, as much as I like Young Thug's verse, I think it's like the best one. It's my favorite one on the track. Literally perked my ears up when I first heard the lyrics. What did Young Thug mean by that lyric? Young Thug had said anything else to like, you know, talk about like a woman touching him, like, you know, in a sexual way. Let's just talk about the standout tracks off of Certified Lover Boy. Alright, first off, Champagne Poetry. This is my top 5. I feel like third place, I think. Third place I would say. This is like third place for me in my top 5 favorite Drake songs ever. I love Champagne Poetry so much. I got it the first time. Like, look, it didn't take me 50 listens to realize what was going on. I got Champagne Poetry the first time around. Like, I love this song so much. This is like literally probably like my favorite song off of Certified Lover Boy for sure. This is such a great way to kick off the album. I love the transition, the second half of the song. Like, it's a really good way to kick off the album for sure. And then next, Fair Trade featuring Travis Scott. I really enjoyed this song. Such a great song. This is probably like one of my favorite Drake and Travis Scott collabs. And then Way Too Sexy featuring Future and Young Thug. I get that like Way Too Sexy, this was like kind of dubbed in the sense like, you know, the city boy, hot boy anthem. But you know, as a hot girl, you know, I'm a hot girl-ish. I did enjoy Way Too Sexy when it first came out. I remember like me and my friends were like vibing to this song when it came out. We all really enjoyed it. Again, the Young Thug lyric, I still think it was weird. It was weird the first time I heard it when the album first came out. Shoot, it was even weird when I first listened to this song, when going back to like, you know, listening to Drake's discography for this video. Also, a lot of people thought that the song was bad because, you know, Drake did a terrible job with sampling Right Side Fred's I'm Too Sexy. TSU, as stated earlier, Drake sampled R. Kelly's Half on the Baby. This adds to the list of Drake associating himself with abusers in the music industry. I definitely did side-eye Drake big time for this, because like, I'm just like, all the samples that you could have used, but you have to go with that one. No Friends in the Industry. Drake did go hard on this track. This is another one of my favorite songs on Certified Lover Boy. I enjoyed the Sha'Carri Richardson line. One thing about Drake is like he definitely got like songs for the gym. The next one, Knife Talk featuring 21 Savage on Project Pat.
Yo, my camera died. I'm changing the batteries right now. But for the rest of like the Certified Lover Boy era, I'm just gonna talk like podcast mode, voiceover mode type beat. Oh my god, I was so hyped when I first listened to the song, like from Project Pat in the intro, 21 Savage bodying the song. Like literally, it didn't even feel like a Drake song in a sense. Like it felt like Knife Talk featuring Drake by 21 Savage and Project Pat. Didn't even feel like a Drake song at all. Both Project Pat and 21 Savage did a good job. I liked You Only Live Twice. It has Rick Ross and Lil Wayne. You Only Live Twice. It gives off Lord Knows vibes from Take Care. Mind you, I do like Lord Knows. Lord Knows is one of my favorite Take Care songs. Allegedly, this song is a diss towards Swizz Beatz. If you guys don't remember, I did talk about how on Fancy, that's the song that Drake and Swizz Beatz collabed on for Thank Me Later. I mentioned, how, there was apparently beef later down the line between the two. Swizz Beatz made some critical comments about Drake. I caught onto that Fancy lyric in You Only Live Twice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for like the Certified Lover Boy era in a sense. When it comes to the standout tracks, again, this album, this era is really when this is where I could really like pinpoint for real, like the shift in like Drake and his fan base. How they became incels, Manospheric, Red Pill type beat. Those individuals, that's when like I felt that shift a little.
But money can't buy happiness, jelly talking truthful. But I'm happiest when I can buy what I want, get how I want. Yeah, that's right.